second, guys. Sorry. Yeah. Share screen. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, Supraja.
Thank you. Thanks for the confirmation. So, Tosca is a test automation tool that helps us to automate the end-to-end testing of software applications. The software applications could be anything, okay? So whether it's a web or desktop, SAP applications, Oracle or Salesforce, anything can come up in the software applications. And the full form of Tosca is topology and orchestration specification for cloud applications. Just remember this definition, okay? Because this was like we came across some of the interview questions with this, because we are just trying to keep the experience on Tosca and we'll not remember the basic definition. So that's where interviewers will caught up us on. Okay, so and did anyone register for the Tricentis website and applied for the license?
Yes, Supraja.
Okay. Anyone else, guys? And in yesterday's class, I wasn't able to take you guys to the academy website, right? That's because there is a change that is going on from Tricentis, and I want you guys not to register for any of the courses till July 8th. Okay, I'll just give an next intimation like from when you guys can register, because they'll be moving this academy website to the new place, like a new platform. So that's where we weren't able to see the navigation yesterday. Okay, so I'll give some next information on the next week so that you guys can go ahead and register for the courses. But still, Academy website will be available. But whatever you have done the registrations, right? So that will not be coming up in the new platform. That's what they mean to say in this email. So better not to register until it's been moved. But if you want to refer any articles, then you can go ahead and refer. And can anyone tell me like what is the website that we have gone through for Tricentis?
It's support hub, right?
Okay, yeah, thank you. So it's a supporthub.tricentis.com. So why I asked you this question is, even after going into any of the companies, when we are working on a project, if any of the issues are coming up, okay, so then this is the support hub is the only place where you can reach out to the Tricentis team and ask for some questions. So usually when we are having any issues with any products, right, what we'll do, we'll be navigating to the website and launching a ticket, right? Like we'll raise a ticket to the team. So similarly, for this also, if we have any issues that we are facing in the product, like it could be, so for example, it's not like everyone knows everything that's present in the platform, right? There could be that unknown issues also that might come up, for which we will be using this supporthub.tricentis.com website to raise the tickets. Okay, so that's where you guys need to remember this website, and when you join the new companies also, this is the only website where you guys can go ahead and register with your official email ID. Whether it's a personal or official, that doesn't matter. But in the companies, you can register with your official email IDs. Okay. So with that, I think we can start with the today's session. Let me log into this. I'll be just trying to log in with my official ID because the normal IDs will not have any access to the products or any softwares. So now we were just talking about Tosca, like what does this Tosca is all about. Like there are like multiple products that supports the different set of applications. Now how we have to start working on this application, right? So as I said yesterday, the products that we have to start with working on the Tricentis Tosca first. Only then we can move into the other set of the products. Okay. So but for this class, I'll be covering only the Tricentis Tosca version. Of On top of it, if any one of you guys are interested or anything, then we can go ahead with the other ones of the tools. Okay, but that will not be covered as a part of the sessions. So let me go to Tricentis Tosca. So in once you launch the supporthub.tricentis.com, you need to log into the application, and from the product support, you need to navigate to the Tricentis Tosca. And once you click on it, you can see what and all the versions and some articles that is related to this Tricentis Tosca product. So if you see guys, there is something on the left hand side, which is the current version says 2023.2, which means the current version of Tosca that is released by Tricentis is 2023.2. Okay, so this is one of the interview question where the panel might ask like, what is the current version of the Tosca and what is the version that you guys are working on? Okay, so that will be like one of the interview question which you might come across. So remember this version, this will be changing. Okay, so I think if you see, this has been released on December 2023. So might be sooner you might see some other versions also, but remember the current version, that 2023.2. Okay, and in the right hand side, you can see some options like this, which is all versions. And one more thing you need to understand from this is, it's not like if you're keeping on, if you are keeping experience in Tosca, it's not like you would be working on the latest version, right? So there could be like, if I say I am 5 years experience in Tosca, there could be like the previous versions also that you have worked on. So because the current version that you could see here is 2023.2, right? This version has released in December. So if you say that I have 5 years of experience in Tosca and I'm actually working on 2023 version, then that's where panel will be having a doubt saying that the version itself is released on December. How come this person has experience of 5 years working on only this version? Okay. So that's where you need to remember what are the previous versions of Tosca as well. So initially, if you say you have worked on 3 years of experience, you can start from 14 version or 13.3 version. And or else if you say like you have 7 years of experience, then you can tell them that I have experienced working from 12 version, like that. So but don't go so old. So better to start below 13 only, because we may not keep experience more than 3 years or 5 years. So it's, our experience mostly varies between 2 to 4. That would be most better option, so that you can take up the questions like that would be helpful to crack your interviews basically. Okay, so remember the versions whatever was there previously also, like the 13, 13.2, not the exact numbers, but we can just say some approximate numbers at least, but not something that's not present in that list as well. Okay, so um from these versions there are some uh, support versions as well. So what a Tricentis does is, whenever they release a version, right, they can give some support on that version. So just I have said like before starting this, if we need to raise any ticket, right, the tickets that has been raised, we have to define like what versions we have. And when we are defining that, they'll ask for some questions like whether it's end of the life version or not. That means usually when they launch anything, any version, right, there will be like a 18 months support that will be given by the Tricentis based on the license that is purchased. Okay, so once that 18 months is completed, they can tell that particular license as end of the license version. Okay, which means they'll ask, even if we are facing some issues, right, then they'll say like, this is already end of the life, you might need to go with the new versions that is present. Okay, so remember that what is the version that you are working on. And here if you see, it's the same, the supported versions they have mentioned here. And some of the versions, it's already in the stage of end of the life. That's where they are extending support for 1 year. So usually what happens is, if the end of the life is 18 months, they'll give that support on that version for some more months, which is like 8 months or 12 months, like that. So that's why this you could see in the extended support, and this is the supported versions. So what I want you guys to go with it is, don't go with the very latest version for the installation, go with some versions lesser. So I would suggest you to go with 16.2 lifetime support version. Here LTS defines as a lifetime support, which means for 36 months. Okay, so once you click on this, you can see many things like this. 1 second, guys. This is product support. Yeah, I'll be clicking on downloads. It'll take to your, usually it'll open in the same thing, but it's navigating to a different tab. So here, if you see, what happens is, when you guys are trying to log in with your website, if you don't have any license, you don't see everything here. Okay, so you can see only the documentation. So if you are facing such issues, you can let me know. I can download this version and share it with you. But initially, if we need to start working on, we need to have a license as well. So this, you guys might see this, which is a documentation, release notes, and here it's LTS again. Usually what happens is, they won't release the version directly, and they'll just give the documentation for us to go through, but only the people who has license, they'll be able to see the version. Now 16, I think there is a patch 8. Okay, and in the left side also, if you see, the Tricentis Tosca is highlighted, and I'll be just clicking on patch 7. Also we have, this is for server. We'll go with this, which is Tricentis Tosca 16.0 patch 8. So once you click on this, right, it will take you to the downloads, where you can see one download is in progress, which means this Tricentis will be downloaded into your system. And once it's downloaded, you can see a folder created like this. It will be a zip folder. I think I have unzipped for the 16.0. So once you open this folder, there is a exe file. Okay, so this exe file is the main file that will be needed to launch our Tosca commander, which means install our Tosca commander. So once this is done, so if you guys need to install for any of your projects or anything, this is the same process that you need to do. So you need to navigate to the support hub. From the product support, you need to navigate to Tricentis Tosca. And from Tricentis Tosca, you need to choose the versions, whichever it's needed. And we need to download the respective versions. There will be many things, okay, like the Tricentis OSV, ARA, server. So this and all, it's not required. Tricentis 16 is more than enough. Is there still a documentation? No. And while downloading, make sure you are not downloading the documentation, because in the documentation, you may not find the exe file. It will be the actual version, only then you can find this exe file. Okay. Now for me, I think it's downloaded. Let me show it. So this is the file that has been downloaded. If I just open, you can see that patch8.exe file. This is where we can see like what version we have downloaded. Okay. And once downloaded, you need to install it. I'll show you the installation process, like how you need to do. I'll show an article because in my system it's already installed, and if I uninstall it, it's in the server, so there could be some issues. Just click on it. Okay. we need to just double click on this patch4.exe file so that Tricentis Tosca dialog box will get populated. So it's saying me this because my system already has Tosca, but once you guys try, right, it will work out. I'll show like what will come up next. So once you install, and once you double click on the exe file, so this is the next one that you can see. There a dialog box will get populated saying that welcome to Tricentis Tosca, and here there is an option. So I think my screen is visible, right, to everyone.
Yes, Pooja.
Okay. So there is an option that the checkbox with I agree to the terms and conditions. Only if you checkbox on it, then you will be able to continue to the next page, next dialog. So make sure this is selected and you're clicking on continue. And once you navigate to the next setup, then it will show like these three options. We don't want execution agent or custom installation because this requires again a costly license. So even if we get the support license from Tricentis, we'll not have access to these features. And some of them will be already hidden. So make sure you're selecting the Tosca commander. And right side, if you see, there are many things, okay, that will be installed along with the Tosca commander. So which will be data integrity. These are like basic Tosca commander, T-box, data integrity, licensing. So in this, you will not be having the data integrity as well as Vision AI. Distributed execution agent, you will have, this is generic, like product info. Remember this as well, or else like when you are installing, take note of this, like what will be included as a part of Tosca Commander installation. Because this is also one of the interview question where if we say we have real-time experience, right, there will be like very generic questions that will be posed like what will be coming along with the commander like this. Okay, so just remember like what you will be installing along with the Tosca Commander. And once you select this and click on next, then it will default install some of the files because Tosca need to have some prerequisites, which is like .NET and Visual C++. So this will be by default installed. No need to do anything in your system. You just need to click on next. And here again, you could see this window. So once everything is keeping installed, there will be like a tick box that will be coming up. It's a small check mark. And here, if you see, again, it's asking you guys to choose the repository, like choose the path, like where this needs to be installed. And once we click on next, so here it says enable Tosca diagnostics. This may not be needed. Why? Because by default, like when we are facing some issue, it will show the pop-up saying that where we might need to send this error to the Tricentis or not. So if you are facing some issues like that, it helps us to just send it to Tricentis. Even if it's enabled or disabled, that doesn't make any issue. So we just need to proceed with the next. And update service feature also. This will not be able to do it, but if you need, you can check mark on this. Because in real-time projects, right, if we just enable this, we will not be able to update the features. Why? Because even if we want to update, we need to do multiple things in the setup, like in the backend. So it's not like very generally we'll be just updating, like we update our Android mobiles, right? The versions of the Android mobiles. It doesn't happen like this. So even if it's there also, we'll not be able to update. Even if you uncheck also, that doesn't make any issue. So we can just proceed with the next. And this, make sure this is disabled. Why? Because we'll not be having the data integrity license to have this feature enabled. So even if we get the license also, we'll not have access to this feature. So you can ignore this. And once we proceed with the next, again, it will say Vision AI. So even this will not have the feature also. And we need to go with the next. So here is the last one. So once these are the initial ones which we have selected along with our installation, all of this will be installed, which means once everything installed, you can see this checkbox next to them. So next, browser extensions. I think this is the new feature. So I'll show you like what is this all about. So we can go with next. Even if it's unchecked also, that doesn't have an issue. Even if it's checked as well, but if you are installing a different version and if they give you a different version, that will be an issue. So better not to check this. So go with next and install. Finally, where everything which is mentioned in the summary will be installed. And once it's installed, there will be a check mark like this. And once everything is been done, we can finish the installation. And what happens is once we finish, then Tosca Commander will be launched. And before installing, you might see some issues wherein if you are doing it in your personal laptops, there could be some issues where your system may not support. So if you guys are using any laptop below the i5 version, okay, the Intel i5 version, so that's where most of the things may not support. It's like supported from i5 version. So if you see in the same article, we can see the prerequisites also, which means if we need to install Tosca in any of the systems, then we need to have some specific prerequisites, which is like I need to have the i5 system or else the Windows server. It may not be on the Linux as well. So like the Windows server should be there, and some supported things like you need to have 8 GB RAM and some space like 16 GB space or 10 GB space should be present. So all these requirements will be there to install Tosca in your system. If you guys have any laptops above i5, then it's well and good. No need to worry on that part. But if anyone that has less than that, then that's where these issues might come up. And if you are facing that, you can let me know. We can try to help you guys out. And if you guys are not able to install or download this version also, you guys can let me know so that I can share this 16.0 patch file that I have. Okay. Is it clear, guys? Any doubts still here? Shall I proceed? May I know like who has joined this Redmi Note Pro? Because I couldn't see the names. When you're joining, make sure you're joining with your names, guys. May I know who has joined with this Redmi Note? Okay. Okay, that's fine. Is it clear till now? Shall I proceed? Yes, no, or you guys didn't
Yeah.
understand?
Yes, Supraja.
Yes, Supraja.
Okay. I hope in the morning no one is sleeping without having breakfast. Huh? Okay. So now this is done. So what happens next? So once you are installed, like your installation is finished, then once you search in the search bar, you can find something as Tosca Commander, which is a desktop app that is already installed. So this comes only once you have finished your installation. Okay. So once you just double click on it, that's where your Tosca Commander will opens up like this here. For me, I don't have BI license, so that's where I could see some error with it. I'll just try to close it and open. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So once you open, you may not see all of this. This is like it's present in my system. So ignore all of this. So you can see only the first steps and advanced examples. So if we are trying to install the older versions of Tosca, something below 14, so then the page view would be different. This is the latest page view that is being released from Price Centers. So you can just see first steps and advanced examples. And this is the tool that will actually work on when you are working on Price Centers. Okay. So now I'll get on to the actual concepts, guys. If you are having any doubts still here, you can pause me and ask questions, or else I can take it forward. Okay. So once you start install, once your Tosca Commander is installed, so that's where we need to create a new project. So even when you are getting onto the companies also, you'll see once your Tosca Commander is there in your system, you'll see only these two, and there won't be already projects created for you. If you want to work on Tosca in your system, then you need to mandatorily create a project for you. Okay, so I'll show you like guys, like what is this create new project and what are the options that will be coming up, so that it will be easier for you guys. So I just clicked on create new. I'll tell you like how this open works, but I will start with create new. So now if you see, I have clicked on create new, and initially we can see some option as select type of repository. So, and you guys can see single user workspace, and there is some other names that is being mentioned. Okay, so for us to start with, we need to understand what is this workspaces. So for us in Tosca, we have two types of workspaces, which is single user workspace and second one is multi-user workspace. So any idea like on what is a single user and what is a multi-user? So usually general example, like what is a single user and what is a multi-user?
Single
So
user only.
the single user can only work on individual. The multi-user can work with multiple users at a time.
Okay. Yeah.
That can be shared with other users, I think.
Yeah, thanks, Vamshi. So usually, for example, if you are just trying to create or else this happens like we'll be taking a pictures of our friends or anyone. What happens? Mm, We'll be once we take a picture, it will be present only in our mobile. It will be stored in our mobile. So others like whoever our friends or whoever it is, they'll not be able to see the picture that is captured in our mobile, right? So that's what we call it as a single user workspace, which means the person whoever working on the single user workspace, they will not be, so others will not be able to see the data that is been created in a single user. So until unless we share that particular data to the other person. So once we take a picture, what we do, so usually if they want it, we'll be sharing with the WhatsApp or else on with the help of a Google Drive or Cloud or Google Photos, whatever it is, right? So similarly, there are some options to share the single user workspace to the other users also. But until unless if you share, only then they'll be able to see whatever the data that you have worked on or else whatever the data that is been created. So that's where we call this as a single user workspace. Okay. And when we say multi-user workspace, so this will be your major workspace that everyone will be working on when you are working for a project, which is like when you are working in a company. So this will be the workspace that everyone will be working on. Why? Because so it's not like when someone hires you, you may not be the only one person that will be working on, right? So initially it might be one person, but future your team might increase. Okay, so that's where what projects do is whenever they're trying to create, they'll go with the multiple user repositories only. So if they go with a single user workspace, okay, so today you might have joined the company. So after 1 year, everything will be stored in your laptop, or else all of a sudden your laptop got crashed. Okay, might be in a 1 month's time or 2 months' time. If there is no option to retrieve your data, then what all the work that you have done will be lost. So that's where everything will be has to be stored in a multi-user workspace. So everyone will prefer to go with this, and if someone leaves the company also there is a problem, right? So that's where they don't prefer the single user workspaces and we'll go with the multi-user workspace. Now if we need to work on multi-user workspace, so what is the requirement? Okay, so usually let me take an example of a Google Drive only. So if there is a drive that is been created or else a folder that is been created, and if the access is shared to everyone, what happens? So everyone can access the documents that is present in that drive, or else everyone they can push something into our that particular folder that is present in that drive, right? So likewise, if we need to work on a multi-user workspace, we need to have a databases that's needed for our project, which means database is nothing but the data, whatever we are working on, will be stored into one repository, which means it's a location where we can store all the data. Okay, so that's where multi-user workspace, like for the people who are working on multi-user workspaces, everything that we create, the test scripts or whatever we are doing, everything will be stored into a repository, so that you would have worked on something today and tomorrow you'll be able to come and see the data in single user workspace. If what happens is, if you are just not saving it, or else if you are not once it's created, if you are deleted it by any chance, then you will not be able to see. But wherein multi-user workspaces, whatever that you are working on, if you push that changes to the database or else to the repository, then everything will be stored into that particular repository. Okay, and here this is also one of the interview question. They'll ask you like, what is a what kind of workspace that you have used, and what is the database that you have used. I'll come back to the databases. But you guys understood like what is a single user and multi-user?
Yes.
So single user will be like only one user will be able to work on a project at a time and others will not be able to access it. Multi-user workspace will be like everyone, like multiple users who are working on the project, we can work on the same time, at the same time, basically work at the same time, and everyone can view the changes. Okay, now I'll show you like what is the difference. I'll just navigate to the commander. If you see here, I just selected single user workspace, and down if you see, it just says the path where our workspace will be created. This will be coming basically from the installation. So while we are installing, we were just selected the path, right? So similarly, the path will be chosen automatically. But if you want to change the path, then there's a 3 dots here. You can just click on it and select the path wherever it's needed. That's only if it's necessary. If not, by default, it will goes to this location. And we need to give the name for your workspace. I'll just give sample workspace. And there is an option to check mark this use workspace template. So usually what happens is, when we start to work on the Tosca, right, there will be like sample set of modules that will be shared by the Tricentis. So you will understand this going forward, like what are modules, what are the test cases. But by default, some modules will be given by Tricentis. So for example, I might need to open the Chrome. I might need to launch some URL. Okay. So this will be the common thing that like what the web applications might do. Or else if we say with the desktop applications, I might need to search for the app and I might need to open that app. That is also common for any of the app, like opening the browser or else searching for that particular element or else such particular application. That will be common, right? So there are like very specific tasks that most of the applications will have. That's where what Tricentis has done is they came up with a sample set of modules which helps us not to recreate them again. So if they are already given by Tricentis, it reduces our work to scan them and create it again. So that's where we need to check this use workspace template so that the standard modules, what is already given by Tricentis, will be populated in this particular workspace. Okay, so I have selected this. That's where you can see standard.tsu. We call this as a standard modules. So that's where you could see the standard.tsu. And once you select this, we can just click on OK so that your project will get created with the name that you have given. Okay, I'll just click on OK. It's creating a workspace. This modules is very much important, like the standard modules is important. But what happens with the real-time projects is, initially when they are creating the multi-user repository only, everything will get created automatically. So every day when you're trying to create it, this option may not come up. But if you are working on personal laptops, so that's where initially when you do, just select them and then go ahead. Okay, so I've just created the workspace, and once you log in, just you can see what all the sections that is present in this tool. the modules, test cases, requirements. So I'll explain going further, like what is this sections all about. But remember, like how we have created a project for today. Okay. Now let me open the Tosca Commander again. This is a single user workspace. I'll just go again, create new. Now I'll select a multi-user workspace. So here, if you see multi-user workspaces, there are different types of repository. So as I said, multi-user, it's nothing but multiple people will be using the particular workspace. Okay. If I want to store the data, I said like we need to store it in a repository or else the database. So what happens is, what kind of database I need to store this data? So usually yesterday I was saying, based on our budget, we might need to select some mobile, right? If you guys remember. So likewise, when we are getting onto a project, based on the budget that is allocated to the project, they'll go by selecting the tools or else the databases or else any other supporting tools that might be needed or not, like the test management tools or else the build servers. So everything will be dependent on the budget. So even if I want to purchase any of these databases, I might need to have a valid license version. So that's where even the project teams will think of what is the database that I might need to go with it. Okay. So usually for manual testing also, there will be some databases. So likewise, if there is a database for manual team, they'll ask us to go with the same, but they'll be creating a separate repository for this. But for us, it depends, like when you go to the new project, it's not like you need to be working on only one. There could be anything on this four databases, which is SQLite, Oracle, MS SQL Server, and DB2. And this is also one of the interview question, asking that what is the type of repository that we have used for your project. So you can say any one of them, but prefer to say MS SQL Server. There's no specific reason, but just like that, if you ask any question, you can remember like whatever that you remember from this list. But there will be definitely, this is a real-time question asking what is the type of repository that is used for your project. Okay, so that's where we need to answer any one of this database name. Okay, now let me select any one of the repository. Once you see, there is a change in the options that came up here. So immediately after selecting this MS SQL Server, you can see this connection string. I can show for it. For single user, how did it come up? I'm just selected single user. So if you see, there's no options. It just says common repository and just the workspace details. But when you see here, it's asking for the schema and the connection string, the branch, workspace, all the details has come up now. So what details that you need to give here? So based on the repository that has been selected, we need to pass the connection string details. Okay, what are these connection string details is, so usually what happens is, this will be out of your scope. Okay, usually the Tosca automation specialist will not have access to this. You need not to work on this scope into this depth. But what you guys need to understand is, what is this connection string and how the data will be fetched. That will be more than enough, but I'll give detail like how this will be built up. So now I have selected some repository, and in the connection string, there will be some details like, one second, it's hanged. So in that, there will be details that is like the server name, what is the database name, and what is the user ID, and what is the password. So all these four details will be populated in this connection string. So even if you guys join in a company and if you start to work on Tosca, right? So if someone like, if your lead or someone tells like start working on the project, then you might need to go ahead and ask them, what is the database that is there for our project? And can you please share me the connection string so that I can start working on? So this is the most important thing that's needed for you guys. So what they'll actually give you is, what is the server? We can just give some example. So I'm not sure like if you guys have gone through these details or not. So usually server is nothing but it's a place where everything, I mean, usually the companies use the servers to store their data, like the data in a secured way. It's like your laptops, like how you guys are using, right? Likewise, they'll be having their own servers where they can store all the data, like the applications or the softwares, whatever they need, everything will be stored in the servers. So likewise, if we have to work on the Tosca, like a multi-user workspace, then we need to have these things in place. Only then we'll be able to start working on a multi-user repositories. So I have given the server name and the database. So how this defines is, in this server, there is some repository. In that repository, a database would be present. So I'll just give it as a test DB or whatever it is. This name depends on like how the name has been given by your project team, and this server depends on like what is the server that is present in your company, like the company that you have joined. Then this will be given by your team. That's, I'm just giving some sample example, that's it. This is not the correct one. And we will be getting the user ID. This will be the user ID for this database, not to your user. Okay, so this is the user ID that will be given in common for this database. So I'll just give it as a test, and password will be given like this, pwd, and some password which the team has created, and semicolon. So with this, the connection string will be created. And usually the Tosca architects or the Tosca admins, like whoever is there for your project, right? Then they'll be creating this and they'll be sharing across the team. So this will be like an internal process when everything, the Tosca architecture will be set up, right? So when they are doing the architecture setup, every of these things will be created. And once they create everything, once the access things are sorted, then that's where they'll just give these details and ask you guys to work on. So, but in this, what is your interview question will be, can you tell me what are the details present in your connection string? Okay, so that's where we need to explain the panel saying that there will be a server name, the database name, the user ID and password that will be present in our connection string. Okay, and what is the type of repository used? Then that will be your database name that is present in this drop down list. So only these 4 databases will be supported, guys, by Tricentis. It won't support any other databases. So remember what are these 4 types of databases that is present. Okay, and now I have given the connection string, and once the connection string is given, we need to test that connection. So here, once the test connection is valid, then there will be given some message here saying that the test connection is valid. But now there will be an error. Why? Because I just gave some incorrect details just as a sample. So it may not work. So, but usually it gives some other connection validation error because the SQL server is not present. But for you guys, now you might ask me a question saying that now we are not working, like how we need to practice on a multi-user repository. I'll come back to that, like how we guys can create our own repository. So now I have given this connection string. We can just similarly like earlier, we can just create a new workspace, select the name for that workspace, and we can just use the workspace template if you're doing it for the first time, or else it's not needed. Once everything is done, then the multi-user workspace, and once this is selected, we can click on OK. Now I'll not be doing it. Why? Because we don't have anything with this multi-user. So I'll not be able to create it. So what I'll do is, now I don't have any connection string for my project. So I can't work on this multi-user repository. So what should I do? So even for you guys, if you want to practice in a multi-user repository, what should I do? Okay. So that's where try to deselect this option, which is use existing repository. So if you deselect it, so immediately there will be one more tab that will be appear, which is create admin user. So let me select this again. You will not see that. And if you unselect it, then you can see this, which means I can create my own repository with some password. So what I'll do is I'll just why this is coming up is, if for the people who doesn't have access to this multi-user workspaces, Tricentis has by default given a repository for the users to practice on the multi-user repositories. So that's where we can use this. The standard username is admin, and the password field can be empty. So no need to worry on it. We can just create admin user. That's more than enough. So what I'll do is admin. Uh, uh, uh. I'm just giving some password, random password. Enter a connection string. Okay, one second. Let me give some name here. Database name. Make sure you are getting good knowledge on this, or else if you need to remember this, or else when anyone asks some question, then you will not be able to answer. And tomorrow I'll ask the similar questions. User ID test, and I'm just giving some dummy details. Test. Okay, and now let me go to the create admin user. It shouldn't be dependent on this, but for some reason it's dependent on that now. Let me space. One second, guys. I'll try to close it and then open it. It shouldn't ask for the connection string for the multi-users, but it's asking now. I think it's because the details I've already entered. So I'll uncheck this use existing repository. Now I'll go to the admin user. I think it's the same. It's asking for the connection string. Just give some dummy connection string. I can share this if needed for you guys. Test multi-user. And now if I go, I can see this option, which is okay. Admin. Now I just gave some random details and I didn't give any license or any validation. I just gave some random details. I just created the name. So now here also I'm not giving any names. Admin. I'm not giving any password or anything. I'll just click on OK. So if you guys remember like how the single user workspace is created. So when we are creating it, it just navigated us directly onto the you see login page, like a login to the Tosca commander. Error while connecting to your database. Just try to look into it. There is some issue. Space SQLite. Okay, now I got it. Create new. So when we are working on a multi-user workspace, right, what happens is this SQL server is like a company is what people might use. So that's the reason it's asking us the connection string. So the default one, which is given by the Tricentis, is nothing but our SQLite. So that's where it was asking, it was not letting us to create a project. So now I have selected the type of repository as SQLite. Now if you see the default repository that is been there, it came up by default. That's because there are some common repository like this common modules, the standard TSU file has been populated. Similarly, the common repositories has been populated. And now if I uncheck this use existing repository, the same thing will come up, which is like admin. So now I'll leave this as is. Let me go to the configure workspace. Now what happens is I just removed use existing repository. So what it will do is it will create its own repository for you in this particular path. It will just create some repository for you in this particular path that we have already selected when we are installing the Tosca commander. And now I gave the name for the new repository. Supraja multi user workspace. And now if I see here, I can just give some name randomly for my workspace. So it's nothing but the name that you will be saved here. Like in your local the workspace which is given here, the name will be stored like this. Like tomorrow I'll show you, like guys, like what is the actual name that will be stored for this workspace, and what is this default like templates that might come up. So let me select this use workspace template. So as I've selected this, the standard.tsu file has been populated. So I'll unselect this, okay, so that you can see the difference, like how the single user workspace has been come up and how the multi-user has been come up. Now I'll click on OK. So you just give the details as repository SQLite, and some common repositories has been default populated. And in the admin user, I just gave some username as admin. And I gave the name for the workspace, and I didn't select any workspace template. I'll just click on OK. So remember the screen, like how the single user has been created. There'll be like slight difference here. It'll automatically close. So now if you see, there is a pop-up, additional pop-up that came up for your multi-user workspace. Did you guys observe this pop-up for the single user?
No.
Yes, no? So it's a
No.
no. Why? Because it's a single user and there is no separate access that is needed for your single user repositories. But for the multi-user repositories, this is the mandatory access that will be coming up. Why? Because when some person newly joins the project, they'll give your resource name in the project. Only then they'll be, even if you have the Tosca license also, you will not be able to access the Tosca projects. Only if someone like the admin or else any senior resource present in the team, until unless they give the access to the project, only then you will be able to see the project and you will be able to access the project repositories. So now this is like a default given by Tricentis. That's where you can see this. But usually also the name will be dependent on the name that given by your lead or team member, whoever it is. They'll give some specific username and password. They'll create some details for you and they'll share the details. Okay. So main thing, if you are working on the multi-user repositories in any company, you need to understand what is the database that is used by the project and what is the connection string that is present for your project, and can I get access to the project to start working on. So these three things are mandatory for you guys in real time to start working on multi-user workspaces. Okay, I'm not talking here on the single user workspace. These three things are most important to work on a multi-user workspace. So I just didn't give any password when creating this project. So I'll just click on login. So now, as we don't have any connection string for us to practice, for you guys to practice, so start creating the similarly how I have done. Start working on a multi-user repository only, not the single user. So because once you join the project, then you might have some hands-on before even getting there. Okay. So now if you see, initially when I'm creating a project, I didn't select the template, like use workspace template. There was some checkbox, right? I didn't select that. So now if you see, there's nothing present in the modules. But let me open the single user, which I have created earlier. For this, I have already selected the single user. Like when we are creating a single user workspace, I have selected that template. That's where you can see the standard modules is present. But wherein for multi-user, I didn't select that template. There's nothing present. You need to create everything from the scratch. So this will be a difficult task for everyone. For the simple things, we might need to create by our own, by ourselves, which might be time consuming. And for to complete test case also, it will take a lot of time. So when you are creating anything, when you start to work on Tosca for the first time, then that's where you might need to have a standard templates that will be created. For single user workspace, it's always why, because our data will not be stored in our repository. But for multi-user workspace, initially for the first time when you are a Tosca architect or admin, when they are creating it, right, what they actually do is when they're creating the repository itself, they will select this templates. So even if you are later joining for the project also, you will still see these options in your project repositories. Okay. So is it clear till now, guys, or any doubts? Any concerns, or else you guys didn't get anything? So everything has been understood.
Yes, Supraja.
Okay.
So Praja, for multi-user,
Hmm.
these modules, how like by clicking on the modules, it will come these standard modules.
So what happens is, when you are creating the project, like initially, when someone's starting the Tosca in their project for the first time, okay. So what they'll actually do is there won't be any repository or there won't be any databases, okay. So initially, for the first time when they are creating, they'll be creating the along with this database, they'll be creating a repository also. So if you see, even if I select MS SQL Server, we can see this option, which is use existing repository. So for the first time when we are working for the project, right, what they do is they can remove this option and they can create their own repository for the project which is newly created. And this happens only for the first time. Okay, it won't be again and again. So this will be for the first time where they'll be creating a repository as well as they'll be creating the templates and everything for the first time. Okay, so when they create, right, there will be an option to check in for the team. Okay, so now if I'm as admin, what I do is I don't have anything in place for my project. Okay, so I want the team to start working on. So what I'll do, I'll be creating a database for my team, I'll be creating a repository for my team, and I have to create a project. So this happens. So for the first time, even if I have the details present in the server also, I'll not be able to create, I mean, I can't use my connection string basically until unless I create a repository. So they'll create a repository and they'll create the connection string. And this connection string also, it's not the work of the Tosca team. There will be like additional IT team, like who supports us between, so who supports us to establish the connection between the systems. Like my system will be my laptop, for example, and my repository will be present in some other server. There should be the connectivity, right, that established between the server and your system. So these set of connections will be taken care by IT team, and they'll be supporting us to build up this connection string, basically the Tosca architects. So for the first time, we can ignore all this stuff. It's already taken care by the architects or the Tosca admins who is already present. But what you guys need to understand is, for the first time when they are creating, they'll create everything, like the repository they'll create and the template, the standard modules they'll create it, and they will be sharing it as, I mean, they'll be checking in. I'll tell you like what the check in, check out, everything in the upcoming classes. But they'll check in and they'll give us the connection string. But for us, we need to have an understanding of the connection string and the basic details like what I have explained it today. And anything from above the head will be your repository, databases, connections. All this will be out of your head. That's like a basic architecture that we will be building up. Okay, is it clear, Vamshi?
Yeah, can you go to the workspace, please?
Okay. Multi-user or single user?
Yeah, it's multi-user.
Okay.
So here we do not have standard modules, right? By default.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So
The
that's where
one
you
you
can
showed.
see everything is
Mhm.
empty.
Okay, okay.
So if you remember when I created this, I didn't check mark the template.
Correct.
Okay. So I didn't check this template. That's where
Okay.
this is not uploaded into your workspace. So once you're working on a multi-user workspace for the project, right, this would be already there. Even if you check or uncheck, that doesn't make an issue because the everything would be already there in your project. They would have already uploaded because these are the basic things that it's really needed for the team to work on, or else everything we have to create it from the scratch. It's like a time taking process. So everything will be default utilized from the try centers, and based on the standard modules there will be some of the questions also, like what is the standard module that you will be using for opening the browser, like the Windows operations, everything. There could be some of the questions that will come up on these modules as well. I'll explain it in the next set of classes. Wherein for the single user, you can see this is there, like the standard module, standard test cases, some examples are there. But when you are doing it, guys, in your system for the practice, make sure the template is checked. Only then you can see the standard modules, or else it will be difficult for you. Or else you need to delete the workspace again and recreate it. Only then you will be able to see the modules. And there is some alternate options also. I'll tell it going further. But for today, make sure your Tosca is installed, and you should try to create a project for your system, whether it's single user project or multi-user project, or else you can create both and give it try. Okay, and if you guys, of any one of you need the access to this exe file, then you guys can let me know. You can ping in the WhatsApp group. I'll just try to upload it in the SharePoint drive. Okay, any other doubts, or else I can close it.
So we have tomorrow also, right? Class.
Yeah, we'll be taking on Saturday as well, guys. We can take a break only on Sundays, so that within like 45 classes we'll be able to close it. So it will be maximum between 30 to 40 classes in between. Okay, so if I say